Back live here with another episode of PB Betting, college football podcast. Here with co-host Mr. Jared Paisley. Week 12, or no, it's now week 13, because we got the double bye weeks this year. So we got 2 more weeks here left of the regular season of college football. We appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're listening, we're here on YouTube, X, Spotify. Feel free to check out our X page. If you're listening on YouTube, we got our picks released every Friday there. This is our midweek episode. We'll run through a few games, have some picks towards the end, and then we have an underdog parlay of the week. And then we'll be back Sunday night recapping everything. And we'll continue that through the end of the season, conference championship weeks, and also probably do 1 or 2 specials during the playoff. Mr. Paisley, how is it going on this Tuesday night for you?
Doing good. Yeah, rounding out the season here. Got college basketball going on. We got some midweek action going on. We're posting picks with that every day, so make sure you're checking back in. College football on all throughout the week here, and then look at the slate. Not the most sexy slate, not a lot of huge top 10 matchups, but some very, very important games that we're going to get into in the ACC, in the Pac-12, and then we have some playoff eliminators with the USC Oregon, and then some SEC teams that definitely can't afford another loss. So there's some action all around. So if you're a true college football fan, it's going to be some key big-time games, but not the most glorious names at the top of the top 25. But I'm excited. It's a good slate.
Yeah, this is the week SEC does their non-conference where they play like Mercer and whatever, School of the Blind down south, and their 8 conference games. So they're on a little bye week. We might have 1 or 2 SEC games that we'll cover. And then also it's Tuesday, so we're doing a day early. The college football playoff rankings for this week, I think, are coming out here shortly. We don't have all the final numbers yet, but so might be a little bit dated on the playoff implications. Maybe at the end of the podcast, Paisley, if we have time, we could maybe run through 5 minutes of that if we're ready to roll there. So, but anyway, we might as well kick it off. We got 6 games here. We'll start in the SEC. Missouri going to Oklahoma. Oklahoma going to be a top 10 team, I would imagine, after tonight. They are a 7.5 point favorite against Missouri. Missouri, of course, had the great season early on. They've struggled lately with a couple losses to Vanderbilt, A&M, kind of up and down. Bo Prabula, of course, got hurt. So the expectations were pretty high a few weeks ago, where we talking playoff, and now all of a sudden they've kind of fizzled out after a few conference losses. Oklahoma, on the other hand, team that a couple people wrote them off a few weeks ago after their loss to Ole Miss, really. They've rattled now 2 wins since then. Tennessee, Oklahoma, they're 8-2 overall. We'll see where they fare in the rankings tonight, but big game for Oklahoma. They proved, they belong. They're a really good team. They're definitely competing all of a sudden for a playoff spot. But I'll probably use this sentence a lot of times over the next couple of weeks is this is a playoff game already for Oklahoma. And you're going to see that for a lot of teams that really just have to keep winning and they can't afford a loss. Oklahoma is definitely one of those teams. It would eliminate them obviously from the SEC championship and all that. I don't even know. I don't think they could sneak in there anyway with 2 losses, but Missouri at Oklahoma. Paisley, is OU going to keep their momentum, or could this be a sneaky spot for Missouri to pull off the road upset? This is noon, total 42.5.
Yeah, this one's a tough one. Some of these games I really like. Some of them I'm just still so torn here. Still early in the week, so still got to do a little more digging. But initial thoughts on this one, was surprised the number is only 7.5. It did open 9.5. I don't know if it was 10. So a lot of Missouri money actually driving this down. So I kind of liked Missouri in the spot here. Didn't have their best effort against Mississippi State in the first half. Just looking up that score, 21-10 at halftime, and then they did have a nice second half, ended up winning by 22 against the defeated Mississippi State team. So maybe that gave their quarterback, Matt Zollers, some confidence. He didn't have the best game, went 8 for 15, 112 yards. So not really lighting up through the air, but Ahmad Hardy in that run game, 25 carries, 300 yards on the ground. So Missouri could definitely run it, and that's what Bo Prabula did so well with that dual action attack with him running the ball quarterback and Ahmad Hardy. So now you lose that a little bit. I think the Zollers kid could run a little bit. He's not a complete statue, but, getting more comfortable in his starts. The defense is still pretty solid for Missouri, maybe not a top tier defense, but I just don't understand the early money early on, driving this all the way down to 7.5. So if it goes below 7, I'll probably look to take Oklahoma here, maybe a flat 7. So kind of waiting on this market to see how it looks. Obviously, it's a good spot for Missouri coming off of that, or for Oklahoma coming off of that Alabama game. A lot of emotion spend that one. Huge win for the program. Definitely kept their playoff hopes on the line. Now they're squarely in the top 12, probably after the bracket release tonight. So now the expectations change a little bit. You were on the bubble. Now you're in. Probably expected, obviously, to win these next 2 games. So the pressure and the stakes definitely going up for Oklahoma. That was a team that was on the bubble. So how will they handle that? Now coming back home, they do have this game and the LSU game at home, which definitely helps them where they usually play well. So I was kind of looking to back Missouri, wanted to see where this number opened up. I was hoping maybe some double digits, but, the numbers dictate everything. So now that it's a little bit lower below around 7, around that touchdown number, kind of like Oklahoma, and the over-under at 42.5. I know these are 2 defensive teams. Oklahoma's offense honestly did not light it up against Alabama. Obviously, it was more their special teams and defense that won them that game in Tuscaloosa. But these are 2 defensive, run-heavy teams. Don't really throw the ball insanely efficient. But I just think 42.5 is a little short, too. I could see them just doing enough to get this game over the total. So I'm kind of leaning favorite and over in this one to start the day.
Yeah, it's a interesting game. 7.5 is always a lot in the SEC, just because you get so much evenly matched games that often come down here to the fourth quarter. But yeah, I tend to lean Oklahoma too. I think we're finally getting to the point of the season. Well, we're at the end of the season nearly, but where some of these big spreads, you're just seeing larger margins. We kind of, Oklahoma has a lot to play for. They got the huge win over Alabama a week ago, which I didn't expect to happen. I know you did, but I just think Oklahoma is just going to kind of keep it on the gas this week. I think they know what they need to do. I think they're at home. And I just like them in the spot. 7 points is just not a ton with Missouri. And I know Zollers is not that bad, but I just think with the backup quarterback still, I just think that number is just a little bit too short. Maybe expect it to be close in a battle, through 2 quarters, even 3 quarters. But 7 is just, that could change so quickly if Oklahoma just puts in, field goal or a touchdown at the end to pull away. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I do think if Oklahoma could cover this, I think Missouri's season is pretty much history at this point. And also, not that this is a huge factor, but it is sometimes with their head coach looking maybe moving on to another school. There's a lot of rumors. You're going to have that with a lot of different coaches, but he's definitely one of the more prominent ones at least. So for all those reasons, I think Oklahoma will get it done. I think they're going to stay in the playoff hunt, make it a headache for the committee. And yeah, that 42.5 total also pretty low. I was shocked to see that. I actually double checked. I thought maybe I was looking at like Iowa, Minnesota from a year or 2 ago. Definitely the lowest, pretty low for the SEC in general, and the lowest we're going to cover by in the night and all these other games by like 10 over 10 points, which is crazy. I mean, that's a ton of points. So yeah, I don't know what to do with that total. I'd probably lean over. I can't imagine we're going to get like a 13-10 game, but who knows? Maybe we will. But yeah, I lean Oklahoma in this one.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too much respect for the Missouri defense. Like I said, solid defense. Mississippi State put up 27 last game. Texas A&M put up 38. I think that's a good barometer game to go off. I know it was Zollers' first true start in that game, but he just looked overwhelmed. And I think now you're going up against a way better defense than what Texas A&M presented, and you're on the road. So I just don't see Missouri having a ton of success. Like you said, I think they could do maybe a touchdown, maybe 2. To get it over the total. And I think Oklahoma's going to have a nice down offense. They struggled a little bit against Alabama. But like I said, Alabama's defense playing pretty good. It was on the road. I think they come back home. I think they let Mateer run a little bit more, get him more equipped in the passing game, get that run game going. And I could see Oklahoma getting into the 30s in this one, like in the 20, 28, 31 range. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think we're lockstep on this one with Oklahoma and the over.
Moving on to the ACC, which is still weird to me seeing SMU here in the ACC, but we got number 20 Louisville going to SMU. SMU, a 2.5 point favorite, so a very tight spread here. Total sitting at 53.5. This one's also at 12 noon. SMU, a weird team all year going into the season. Of course, after last year's college football playoff appearance, they came into this year with a little bit lower expectations, maybe not them themselves, but definitely nationally weren't supposed to be that good. Didn't look great, early on, but lately they've been playing a little bit better. I mean, they got a big win over Clemson. They blew out Boston College 2 weeks ago. Not that Boston College is any sort of powerhouse, but the offense looked great in that one. Of course, they got the big signature win over Miami, which kind of propelled them into the ACC discussion. And then Louisville, also a team that's had up and downs, where 2 weeks ago was really in the driver's seat in the ACC, and now they have back-to-back losses between from then and now to Cal and Clemson. SMU is still fighting for the ACC title appearance. Also, they're 5-1 in conference, and they're right there. And I think the ACC really is like the Big 12 last year. We just have all these teams coming down to the wire. I think it'll come down to next week, and this is one. I mean, just another playoff eliminator game. I think Louisville's kind of already out of it, even though they're ranked and SMU's not. But just where the standings fall in the ACC, I think they're out of the ACC picture. SMU, if they could win this one, they're going to be right there and have an opportunity. And, if they went out, I think they'd be ranked. I think they'd probably be the highest ranked ACC team. They, believe it or not, even after having not a great year, they could sneak their way in to the playoff. And that's just something with the 12-team playoff that they're able to do. So a lot to play for them. Might not feel like it nationally, but we had to put this game on there just for those implications. Louisville at SMU, total 53.5.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. Like you said, the ACC still up for grabs. A couple teams we thought that maybe could take the reins certainly have fallen off the last couple weeks, including Louisville, that I kind of like personally. Just hasn't looked the same the last couple weeks, and now you're starting to hear some rumors going around, obviously, like you said, with Eli Drinkowitz, but now with Jeff Brom, maybe looking at some other destinations. Is he truly happy there? Miller Moss not playing particularly well. They're kind of calling for the backup, who's a little bit younger and inexperienced, maybe to get some reps here. So it's just a little messy there in Louisville. I think they really had their shot in that Cal game. Really killed them. They lost in overtime as 20-point favorites at home. That was just a soul crusher. It was really bad. And then when I was watching that Clemson-Louisville game pretty tightly last week, and Clemson, they had some good success, Louisville, running the ball against Clemson's defense. So that could be something to look for here if they can maybe get that ground game going again. But just wasn't great in the red zone areas. The defense was giving up chunk plays to Clemson all night long. Got a little fortunate with some fourth down stops in the red zone, so Clemson could have scored a couple more. But then the Louisville kicking game had some troubles in that too. So special teams definitely a worry. The quarterback play definitely a worry for Louisville. Even though I like Miller Moss all season, but he's just not seeing it well. In that RPO system, he's just kind of making the bad reads, bad calls, a lot of passes batted down. So I kind of like SMU quite a bit in this spot case. I think they're going to control here. They're playing some really good football, kind of under the radar, like you said. Since that Wake Forest loss, that was the weirdest game ever. I think we were both on Wake Forest. The field goal that went in by inch, tons of turnovers in that game. So I kind of throw that one out. But since then, like you said, that good Clemson win at Clemson with the backup quarterback, but still very impressive. They have the Miami, Florida win. And then obviously the very impressive win against Boston College because of the spot. Obviously Boston College, not the best team in the ACC this year, but to go there game from start to finish, that was impressive, which was 2 weeks ago. Now they come off a bye at home. They get Louisville right after the Clemson game, and Louisville has their big rival Kentucky on deck, which they know they take that game very seriously to end the year. So just a tough spot for Louisville. I like the way SMU's ascending right now. That defense is really rounded in the form going back to that Miami game, really shut down Carson Beck and that run game. With that really good offensive line that Miami has, they were able to stifle them and really make life hard. So we knew the offense was pretty good going into the year with SMU. It was the defense that we questioned. So now Jennings having a little second life here. He's playing some really good football. They run the ball pretty well, and now they get that defense playing a lot better. So I got this as a nice size bet here. Case might be a lock. We're going to see how it goes on the cards on Saturday. Still do a lot of research, but I think it's a great spot under a field goal. I'll definitely take the -2.5 here with SMU.
Yeah. No, that's a good analysis there. And it's not a ton of points, -2.5. So if you like them that they're going to win the game, you could definitely consider putting a couple of units on that one. This one I was going back and forth with Louisville. Like you said, weird team all year. They started out great. They were 7-1, and then the last two games, not so much, especially like you highlighted the loss at Cal. But if you look at the whole thing, I mean, they're also very close to being unbeaten, which is kind of crazy to think about. We could have a 10-0 Louisville team, I don't know where they'd be ranked, but two of those losses were overtime losses. And I know Cal was a bad loss, so that's not really it's not really necessarily fair to say that, but still 2 overtime losses and a 1 point loss to Clemson. So this team still is really good. It's really just how much gas they have left in the tank. Definitely deflating losses and kind of play your way out of it. What's the locker room like? And then on the other hand, you have SMU's playing for a lot. So I was, going back and forth. I was probably originally just on Louisville with the points because I thought, man, the ACC is just such a mess. Right when SMU's ascending, they're just going to fall. But really thinking about it, I don't know. 2.5 points is really not a lot at that point. You might as well, pick them on the money line. So I probably now would adjust and lean SMU minus 2.5, but I don't think it's going to be a lopsided game. I think Louisville is going to come out and fight hard. I do like their coach, Jeff Brom. He's a Louisville guy, and his name has been rumored elsewhere, including Penn State and other jobs. I don't even know if he'd want to leave Louisville. He's like Mr. Louisville, so it'd be hard for me to imagine. But I think he's going to have the team ready. I don't think that should be an issue for them. But nonetheless, SMU, like you said, is ascending at the right time. They're at home, like you said, and just a couple bad weeks for Louisville, I think, played their way out of it. So like SMU, but probably not as much. I don't know if I'll have it locked. I'm in love with them as much as you are here, but we'll see. Could definitely see it going that way for those reasons.
Yeah, and like you said, the motivation factor is definitely another tool you could use in handicapping these games late in the season. Doesn't mean everything, because you never know. With some teams, you might think they're dead, but then they're obviously playing for something here later in the year. So just a little thing. Don't put a lot of weight into it, but I like to definitely put that in the handicap here late in the season.
All right, moving out of the ACC, we got a little bit of everything this week. I think we're highlighting all Power 4 conferences into the Big Ten. Number 17, USC going to Oregon. Oregon, a 9.5-point favorite right now. This one was shifting. It was actually even like 10.5, like a little bit ago. I just updated it. So it's really whenever you're looking at the spread, but it's going to probably be somewhere between, 8.5 and 10.5, I would imagine. Total's 57.5. This is 3:30 out in Oregon. Big game for them. I mean, big game for just huge game. Probably the biggest game of the week. Game days there. Once again, college football playoff implications on the line. This would never be a playoff implication game under the 4-team. I mean, this is as big as it gets for both these teams. USC's kind of just been trying to ascend all season long. Of course, they had the loss against Notre Dame, but really they've looked pretty good at since then. They've done what they needed to do, and although they haven't been blowing teams out, they've been winning those Big Ten style type of games, I guess is the nicest way you could put it. But they got the win over Iowa last week. It took a big comeback. They were down 21-7 in that one, and Iowa kind of threw the game to them. But hey, in college football, win is a win, and they've aligned themselves for an opportunity here to go to Oregon and take their spot. Basically, I think the loser of this game, you're probably out. The winner, you're probably in. Maybe Oregon has a little bit more of a leash, but we'd have to see how that all plays out. Oregon, on the other hand, also up and down season, big win in Penn State early on, emotional win. Everybody thought maybe they were the best team in the country. Then they take on Indiana. They don't look good. They've kind of bounced back pretty well, though, since then. They got the big win at Iowa, ugly, rainy game, and then they blew out Minnesota a week ago. So big game, but also a big spread. So I guess Vegas and everybody's on Oregon. And the question is is it going to go as everyone expects and Oregon coast to a victory? Totals at 59.5 on this one.
Yeah, this one's tough. We were kind of discussing a little bit pre-show here. I've been going back and forth on this one on the side. I do like the total in this game. I do like the over. Already played it. Thought it'd go up a little bit, but it's kind of staying where it's at. I think both offenses are going to have a lot of success here. So I expect a little back and forth action here. So I took the over 59.5. You look at, I think, weather, you got to start there because these teams have played in so much weather the last couple of games. Definitely USC last week and then Oregon 2 weeks ago in Iowa. Just checked it in Eugene. It's looking about low 40s for game time. No rain expected. So it should be no rain here. So I think that's also good for the over. A little chilly maybe for the South California boys there coming up the West Coast there. So but it's not anything crazy there. I think it's going to be nice, no rain. Hopefully keep it dry for a nice, clean game here. But yeah, like you said, that USC-Iowa game was crazy because Iowa jumped out to that huge lead. You thought with the rain, with the Iowa ground attack, their defense playing well. You think they would just, kind of run away and hide at that game. They were up 14 at 2 points in the game. But got to give USC a lot of credit. They still threw the ball pretty well in that rainstorm in the second half. Mekhi Lemon, their star receiver, I think had over 150 yards. So, their running game is still something that is just missing. We talked about that in the recap a little bit with losing two of their top backs. Even in that rain, they had to throw the ball a little bit to come back, but still their lead running back, 19 carries, 83 yards. Oregon does have a really good run defense that showed against Iowa, who just kept ground and ground, and they were kind of holding check the whole game. They didn't really let them burst through for any long runs or didn't give up a crazy amount of total yards there. So I think USC is going to have to throw it to win this game, and I think that's why I like the over in this one. I don't see USC's defense putting up much resistance to an Oregon team. I think they're kind of ascending at the right time. They got that crazy win at Iowa a couple weeks ago, but that was, I think, just a complete, rainstorm. It was just so slow, actually, too, in that game that I didn't realize till after the game. Their stud tight end and receiver didn't play in that game. They had a couple other injuries. So starting to get back healthy. They showed in that Minnesota game. They're very good at home. They play really well. So that's where I think Oregon's going to win the game. I do have confidence in that. I don't see USC upsetting them, but can Oregon win by margin? And that's the question until we come here on the show. Originally, I did like Oregon. I think they would put a number on them, but then this number just seems a little too high. So now if you could grab a 10.5, I might be a slight lean to USC. I might just stay off the side in general and just hope for points here and hope for a nice little old-time Pac-12 shootout here to go over 59. But I think Oregon does get the job done. Was actually kind of looking at them for maybe some future titles at plus. They were about 1,100. So I was looking at them and Notre Dame as two teams to maybe grab now before you get late into the start of the playoffs. Obviously, it depends on seeding and everything. But I think a lot of people are writing Oregon off here. I think they've kind of been laying in the weeds. I think if the weather holds out, I think they'll be able to show who they truly are. And I think that offense is going to have a lot of success. I like Oregon's defense, don't love it, but I think USC could do enough here against that Oregon defense here to score their fair share amount of points. That's why I have trouble leaning towards Oregon because I don't know if they could win it by margin or really, blow them out because I think USC's offense is that good and I respect them to that level. So I'd kind of lean a slight lean to USC with the points, but give me the over as the main play here. Over anything under 60, I think is fair play.
Yeah, Oregon's a strange team to judge for a couple of reasons, and one being that they have had some really weird games with tough weather. I mean, they've had the Wisconsin game where it was just they looked terrible. They win the game by 14, but also that weather was horrible. Then you go to Iowa, same thing. In that one you're down, you find yourself in a hole. They had the home loss to Indiana. So it's like one of those teams where it's still, I think they're one of the most difficult to really gauge, like how really good are they? And then even, the at Penn State win, Penn State turned out to be not near as what everybody thought they would be. And you have Oregon, going to double overtime. So you have half the people saying, oh, look, it took, double overtime to beat them. And then, at the same time, that's a game where, Penn State was all in on it. I think they gave their A game for that one. So, it's hard to take away from a win, but you still have to look at that and question it, how good really is Oregon. But they did get the big win over Minnesota. They look good. And I do think their offense is very solid. I'm not really concerned. I think they'll be able to score points against this USC defense. It really does come down to that USC offense. Could they break through and put up some points and make it a fight? I think they could. I think, like you said, it's just a ton of points. And I have a bad feeling we're going to be looking back Sunday on the recap, and we're going to be looking at an Oregon 42-10 type of win or something. And we're going to say, we could have seen this coming with the Oregon blowout. But I just think it's too many points, and USC's not bad, and they have a lot to play for. And we were talking a lot about on the Oregon side, but when's the last time even USC won a game like this, like a big college football game where the national attention's on you, and normally this wouldn't even be one because they're ranked back in the later teens, but the fact is this is a playoff potential game. Winner could get in. Oregon hasn't broken through. USC hasn't broken through. Lincoln Riley hasn't gotten the huge win. They beat Michigan, but Michigan is not their same 2023 self by any means. So huge game for USC. I think Lincoln Riley really wants this one. I think they're going to be ready, and I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be closer. Like you said, I think Oregon wins. I'm not going to dabble on USC money line. So spoiler, they will not be my underdog parlay of the week, but I do have a pretty good one this week. But it won't be USC, but give them to me with 9.5 or 10.5 points or whatever I can get them at. I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, just 2 more points on this one. One for this game specific, kind of similar maybe to that Notre Dame USC game, right around the same spread. USC going on the road, obviously not as much travel, just going up to Oregon. But we did see weather in the second half in that game. But USC was kind of in that game the whole time. They didn't really get outside the number. Now Notre Dame had some blunders on the 2-yard line, then had a couple missed field goals, missed extra points, so they would have maybe gotten past that 10. But that game landed right on 10. So if you had the 10.5 of USC, you won your bet. If you had the -9.5 Notre Dame, you won your bet. So I could see something similar with that, where it's going to stay within the number. I could see USC just hanging around. But I think that's maybe a game similar profile to the one we had a couple weeks ago in South Bend. And then one more point case. So someone brought this up on another podcast I was listening to, and it's a great discussion maybe for another day or when we're going into the playoffs, debating which team should be in. But how do you classify ranked wins? Is it when you play the team at the time, or does it depend what the last rankings of the year represent? And I think the Penn State game is the best example out there, where you had 2 3-0, 4-0 teams at the time going at it. Huge game, every eyeball's on it, whiteout at night. And then obviously we see how Penn State turned out the next couple games, but they're playing a lot better now. They're not going to finish in the top 25, but that was a really, really tough game for Oregon at the moment. And we thought that was going to be a big win. And now that might just be an unranked win at the end of the year. But do you count it for what Penn State was when they were 2 or 3 in the country at that time? But that could be a discussion for a different day. But I thought that was a great point, that we kind of just used the last rankings of the season, but we're kind of discrediting. But that was a really tough environment and tough win that Oregon got. But it's very discredited now, but with Penn State playing a little better football. So it's just an interesting point. Like, how do you classify the ranked win? Is it at the time or is it at the end of the year?
Yeah, no, it really is up for interpretation. I mean, there's no right answer. I mean, typically it is when you play the team, but it's almost like everything, it really just it depends on the circumstance. Like last year, Florida State, I would say, would not be considered a ranked win if you beat them week 1 or week 2, and then they turn out to be like 2-10 and dead all season. But I do agree that you should give them, like, you can't take the win away. You can't rip away a win. Like, it doesn't make any sense, especially in that type of environment. But yeah, that's a bigger topic, but it really is. I think even the committee, I think, would say it's up for interpretation. Like, there's no right or wrong. It's really so subjective, and it causes chaos. But yeah, great point on how you look at that. But huge opportunity for Oregon. They won't have to worry about it. As long as they keep winning, they control their own destiny. So, they have everything in front of them still, and same really for USC. So big game there. CBS going to be there. Finally, they get a good game. So big shout out to CBS. It's been a while, I feel like, since they've had that 3:30 slot with a good game. So anyway, that one's 3:30 on Saturday. Moving on, SEC. Paisley, this might be a difficult question for you, but do you remember what you were doing on September 6th of this year?
I do not. I'd have to look up. Was that a college football Saturday?
Well, it was, and that is also the last time that Arkansas won a game, was September 6th.
That's crazy.
So here they are. They are going to Texas, number 10 Texas, or not. We're not going to be number 10 anymore, but wherever Texas is going to be ranked. Texas is an 8.5-point favorite. I was surprised. At this number. Total is 57.5. Texas has been a strange team. They're 7-3 now. They had up and downs, nearly got picked off by a couple times. Kentucky and Mississippi State almost beat them. They looked bad against Georgia a week ago, lost. I was all over Texas. I thought they were kind of ascending at the right point, but completely, wrong on that one. Georgia took it to them. And you have an Arkansas team that really is just kind of playing for their future. The players playing for their futures, the coaching staff, whoever's left of it. They're right there. They've had a couple of really close games, 3-point loss to Tennessee, 3-point loss to A&M, single digits to Auburn, Mississippi State field goal game, LSU 1-point game. Like, this is a team that certainly has some talent there. They have some fight. Could they pull it off? I mean, they're getting 8.5 points. It's a lot of points in a Texas team that, who knows where their mental state is right now with Steve Sarkisian. And, according to Steve Sarkisian, I don't know if you saw that press conference this week, but he was asked about if it's been in like a down year. And he's like, who says this is a down year? And I'm like, well, you haven't looked that great. You could easily be 5-5 right now. I mean, they're even worse than that. Highlight of their season is really the win over Oklahoma. But anyway, enough Texas hate there. Chance to rebound at home totals 57.5. Basically, is Arkansas going to finally pick one of these SEC teams off?
Yeah, it's a great question to start. I'm sorry there. Yeah, I don't know if they could pick them off. I'd love to see it happen. I was on them last week with LSU plus the points, and the whole game, I'm like, they're going to win this game outright. I maybe should have picked them for the underdog, and then they find a way to just absolutely lose it in heart-crushing fashion. That is one point that not a lot of people are talking about. I'm glad you brought it up with Arkansas not in so long. Feel bad for that fan base. Like they are having some really close losses. They have leads late. They're blowing them. They could have some big upset wins on the schedule. Like you said, they've been so close in so many games here. It's just really been a truly tough game. I think I saw a stat that out of their 6 SEC losses, it's combined 25 total points, which is crazy to think about. Like that just shows how close they were in each game. Like they're right around a touchdown field goal in every game. So yeah, this one's a tough one. This one I'm going to maybe wait a little bit on. A couple of these I had some early convictions. This one I'll put in the Oklahoma bucket too, where kind of have to wait for some more info. I want to see what other people are thinking because I did like Arkansas early on. I kind of circled this one. They were around plus 10, 10.5, 10. So I am surprised. It came down a good solid 2 points here to Texas. You got to start where Texas is at mentally. Like you said, definitely having some rumors now swirling around about Steve Sarkisian. That was just such a embarrassing loss. It could have been even a lot worse than what the final score indicated. And like you said, like, yeah, it's a successful season or not, like you're Texas, you're top 3 in NIL, you're rolling out Lamborghinis and stealing recruits left and right. So yeah, you should be in at least the college football playoff discussion, not even just even the national championship discussion. So definitely a down year. He's been going through a lot this year. I don't know if he's going to leave or what's going to happen there. So definitely a lot of questions going around. Arkansas is playing tough. They're still playing hard. So I definitely lean towards them at the 8.5. But if you're going to get a focused, pissed off Texas team that could, maybe put a number on one of these worser defenses that they're going to play in Arkansas here, this would be a good game to do it because Arkansas's defense isn't that great. Arch definitely has looked terrible against the really good defenses. Looks about serviceable against everybody else. So, it depends what Texas you're getting here, but I'd put a little more trust in Arkansas and what they're doing. Bobby Petrino being the interim head coach, they've been in these games. They're still fighting. Like you said, they're still playing for potentially their transfer portal, draft stock, whatever it may be. So I kind of trust the Arkansas team here to give a valiant effort, show up strong here on the road at Texas. I just don't know where this Texas team is at mentally. Now you have the 3 losses. Even now they're saying if you win out, you're still a good chance you're not going to make it, where that might have been a little different case if you would have lost a close one against Georgia. So what do they really have to play for? They have Texas A&M on deck, which obviously they really want that game to spoil their season a little bit or maybe throw a loss on their rivals team there. They have them at home. So tough spot going from Georgia on the road back home here in a sleepy Arkansas spot. And then you have your big rival coming in next week. So everything's kind of point towards the Arkansas direction, some early money on them. So I'll lean Arkansas here. Not sure if it's going to make the card, though.
Yeah. I'm not really confident one way or the other on this one either. I originally have Texas minus 8.5 written down if I have to pick a lean. But I think Arkansas has been close, and I do think they're, I'm not going to be absolutely stunned if they can pull it off. I just think it depends where Texas's mental state is. If they come in like you just said, angry and they want to win a game and make somebody pay, I think they could cover the spread. They're at home. Arkansas, another game on the road. That's tough in the SEC. They also got to be pretty tired and beaten down to themselves. We talk about like Alabama and these higher ranked teams going through this gauntlet and winning. Well, what about these teams losing too? Like how much could you really, take until you're just like, oh my goodness, like where are we at right now? Like how is that Arkansas even locker room? But I think it'll be a tight game. I think Texas should find a way to pull away late just because they're at home. But yeah, I wanted to highlight it because it will be interesting to see how does Texas respond. like you said, they're kind of out of it now, especially with that loss. But they do have A&M next week, so it's like, what happens? Like if they beat A&M, like how much value does the committee have? I think they're probably going to be too far out, but still an interesting situation that could definitely unfold, and that's all going to unfold really in the next couple of weeks. Of course, right after conference championship, we'll know, but still a lot to play for. But it will be very interesting to see how Texas does respond after that bad loss, beat down there against Georgia. So got to win. And then, Arkansas is just one of those teams that's kind of can't play for a bowl game, can't really do anything. You can play spoiler and really just play for your futures. So, and they've been close. So not going to be stunned if they could pull it off, but slight lean to Texas. Also, like you said, though, I don't know if I'll even have them on my card.
Yeah, and we talk about the quit factor motivation. Like that's a new thing that's coming into college football now with kids that could transfer out. Like where are they at mentally? Like if I'm on Texas and I know I could get 2 million somewhere else, and I just don't like it here. Like, are you really going to play hard these last 2 games when you don't have the playoffs in question? I kind of feel more confident they're going to have a better showing next week against their rival in Texas A&M at home than in this game here. So that's what's been making handicapping a little bit difficult here late in the season. Could be, easy if you know the motivation, but then it could be very difficult to try and gauge or get a number on some of these games. Because you're right, if they're focused, this number probably should be 13-14. If not, I would not be completely stunned if Arkansas wins this game outright and finally gets one. So Texas has been a tough team all year to gauge, honestly, because they have the high-end talent. But when the bottom drops out and they don't play good, they could lose to anybody, including Kentucky or Mississippi State just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So it's a very, very tough team to gauge.
Yeah. No, definitely probably the hardest team to gauge really in the country. And it is just spot plays. Like you said, I'm looking at already that Texas A&M game. So I think you're going to see probably 2 different Texases, but you always show up for the rivalry game. So definitely note that. Moving on here, ACC, we already talked about SMU being in the mix here, 5-1 in conference. Well, here you got 2 teams, Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech slight favorite, 2.5-point favorite. Both the teams are in the top 25. Well, at least Georgia Tech is. I don't know about Pitt now, but totals at 62.5. So pretty high number. Primetime game here in Georgia Tech. And like Pat Narduzzi said, doesn't care if he loses Notre Dame by 100 because everything's still in front of them. And he's right. They got 5-1 in conference. You win this game, you're essentially in the conference championship, but they got to take care of business in Miami next week. But I've already said on the record, I know Pittsburgh is going to win that game. No reason to really even break that down next week. It's kind of already over. No reason to play it. Pitt will win that game. So here they are. They have to play Georgia Tech. Schedule's getting tough, and ACC coming right down to the wire. Georgia Tech, a team that we talked about, in the preseason being a dark horse over Clemson here in the ACC and Miami, and now all of a sudden they're in the complete driver's seat. So it's really their conference to lose at this point. However, they haven't been playing great lately. They've lost to North Carolina State on that surprise upset, and then escaped really a week ago. I was on Boston College. That was one of the positives on my slate last week. I'd pick BC with the points. They almost won that game. So 2 interesting teams. How will Pitt respond after the loss? Georgia Tech also, trying to get things back on the tracks here the last couple of weeks. Big game here for ACC implications, and that would also mean playoff just because of the way the standings are. And if you can win the conference, you could get in. So going to be a fun one here Saturday night, kind of under the radar, Paisley, Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I think it is a sneaky good game. And like we said, either on the recap or last week, like this is why the expanded playoff is so great, because this game would probably not mean anything to both teams, but now they still have a legit shot here, and it's a huge implications. This is what Pat Narduzzi was hoping for, planning for 2 weeks ago. So let's see if his wish is going to come to fruition here, because he really was hopefully preparing for these 2 ACC games, and I'll believe him to a point. I'm kind of on Pitt here. It's a little weird. I like this Georgia Tech team, but I cannot get that NC State game out of my head. And I watched that whole game because I remember I was on them -4.5. I think the spread was. They lost by like 17-10. So they just did not have a good showing. This Georgia Tech defense is so bad. So now you're going from a Pitt team that just played a really good rising defense in Notre Dame, had a lot better athletes. They could not block the Notre Dame D-line all game. So now I think it's just a whole complete 180 of an opponent here. I think they'll be able to get back to what they were doing through the air and on the ground, Pittsburgh, get back to that freshman quarterback having some success here. I don't think the Georgia Tech defense will have too many roadblocks in the way here in this one. So I expect the Pitt offense to have some success here. But on the other side too, I'm really worried about this Pitt defense now. Let's see what they're made of, because this Georgia Tech offense I do like, and I love Haynes King. He's a very underrated quarterback, has a ton of yards and touchdowns that he's responsible for. He's so good on the ground and through the air. But then, like that Boston College game that you were on, Case, plus the points, they were very fortunate to even win that game outright as about 17-point favorites. So they could have easily tripped up there. So their last 2 games back to back, not the most impressive. So maybe are they on the downcline a little bit after those nice wins earlier in the season against Duke in conference play. So I'm really looking at Pitt here plus the points. I knew this was going to be right around a pick 'em maybe. I respect that Georgia Tech should be the favorite in this one. I think it's going to be super close back and forth. Wouldn't mind the over. Definitely is a little bit higher at 62.5, so kind of waiting on that one. 61 is a key in college football, so maybe waiting to see if that comes below it. But I think both offenses are going to cook here. I think it's going to be a very much back and forth, kind of how both these teams played NC State in the 30s, 40s in this game, with both teams getting above 30. So I could see this being a way back and forth, entertaining game here at 7 p.m., prime time for Georgia Tech. And I wanted to back Georgia Tech and Louisville late in the season here, but they just have not looked as good as they have previous, or just how they looked all season, or what I thought this team could be. So I think Georgia Tech has some serious holes on defense. I think Pitt will have a much better game plan against this team than they did against Notre Dame. I think a lot of people are writing them off, but I think that was just Notre Dame and how elite they were in that game, and really just controlled that game on both sides of the ball. So Pitt's calling card is run stopping. They're really good at run defense. Obviously, didn't have a great game against Notre Dame there last week, but that is what Georgia Tech likes to do. So it's going to be strength on strength there. But I'm kind of leaning Pitt here. I think they bounce back. I think they get a big road win that they really haven't had in a couple of years. But I'm just feeling the Pitt Panthers this week while everyone's selling them after the Notre Dame game. I'll take them here plus the points.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree here and take Pitt with the points. Yeah, I just like him here in the spot, and I go back all the way to the preseason. I was picked Pittsburgh to be a dark horse tier team in the ACC, and they're right here with a shot to win it. So I have to back my original bet, and it is based off of how Georgia Tech's also looked. Like, you're right, they could have easily slipped up a week ago. NC State game was atrocious. They're a solid team. I think they have pieces, which is why I think this is going to be a tight game. This is like a coin flip toss-up game, spread 2.5. I mean, almost a pick 'em, really. But yeah, Pitt, they were looking so hot going into Notre Dame. The offense looked unstoppable until they finally played. Notre Dame's defense didn't look like anything they did in the ACC. But now, we're back to the ACC play. I do think they're going to be able to move the ball. I think you'll be able to score points. I think Georgia Tech's can be able to score points too. So it should be a fun game. But I think, like you said, I think Pitt's just going to find a way to win this game. I think people are low on them, of course, even after the Notre Dame loss, just because that game was so lopsided. But here we are at the end of November. I think Pitt's going to be in the driver's seat here in the ACC, at least have his chance. And maybe they're not all that great. I'm still, not sold on them overall, but this is just another spot play where I think they're ascending at the right time, with the exception of last week. They've had a really good October and first week in November. And Georgia Tech's just been all over the place lately, and definitely a little worried about that. So I lean Pitt with the points. Don't hate them either on the money line a little bit. I think, if this game was in Pitt, you might have them as a slight favorite of how tight the spread is. So really just giving Georgia Tech the nod, it seems, because they're home. And we'll see how they all play on Saturday. But lean Pittsburgh. I think we're going to have a big shakeup here in the ACC going into the final week.
Yeah, and I hate to do it, but I hate Narduzzi. I think he's a joke of a coach. I didn't like him before Notre Dame game, then all the antics he did. I think he's just an a-hole. I don't think he's a nice guy, not a great coach, overrated. But let's see. Hopefully he gets a big win here. But I think that Pitt program should honestly look to move on. I just think he's ran his course there.
I think a lot of Pitt fans would agree too, and it's funny because you have such like half the fans I think love him, and they're walking around with him as like their face masks of Pat Narduzzi, and Narduzzi's number one fan, and then the other half I think the more common sense people I think realize that he's never going to get it done. I mean, we could go. This is another probably discussion for the offseason, but like where does this Pittsburgh program even want to be? Like they haven't been relevant in forever. Not that they were never like a huge powerhouse, but I feel like you get the right guy in there, they should be able to, recruit pretty well, like out there. They have a lot of strong, got players too in Pittsburgh itself. Like, yeah, you got to compete with like Penn State and then Ohio State right there, but there's a lot of guys that grow up in Pittsburgh that they lose. Like, though, you should be able to retain those people. And you also got like Maryland, West Virginia right there. Like, why can't they even be? I feel like West Virginia's had them beat lately. Like, I don't know. I agree. I don't think he's the right guy. I think they should have a shakeup as well.
But, yeah, you look back to their best season was with Kenny Pickett a couple of years ago. I don't know if that was the COVID season or right after, but you take that out and they have done like nothing. Like you said, it's a program, sleeping giant kind of, that's just like it could be so much better. And I think they just kind of reached their ceiling. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think they could be a lot better. I just don't think Narduzzi's going to take them to that next level.
Right. Well, yeah, they've been like Penn State was almost, well, they're not now content with 2 losses, but they were always stuck at 10-2. But Pittsburgh's, I feel like, always stuck at 7-5, 8-4,
right?
Like 8-4, and it's like they're happy, and I'm like, why? Nobody should be happy at 8-4, even Pittsburgh, where you're not going to the playoff every year, but maybe let's say every 5 years get a 10-11 season, and it's not even been that.
And yeah, bad ACC too. The ACC's been so bad for so long, like.
Yeah, and the year, by the way, that they did finally get through with Pickett, that was Clemson. They had a down year that year. They beat Wake in the ACC championship. So that also has an asterisk on it. So anyway, I'm rolling with them this week, though, with Georgia Tech.
Yes, me too. Yeah, not to get lost in that. Yeah, we are in Pitt this week.
Moving on, sixth and final preview game, and we'll get into our picks, and then we got our underdog parlay of the week. So we appreciate everybody listening around there right now. Big 12 implications, playoff implications on this one. BYU 2.5-point favorite going to Cincinnati. BYU's hovering right around that playoff. They had, of course, the heartbreaker just a couple of weeks ago against Texas Tech, where they just got absolutely humiliated. But they bounced back this week against TCU. I was on TCU. I looked like an idiot once again betting on TCU. I will no longer be betting on TCU this year. That's just an official statement there. I'm done with TCU. They're on my list of teams I'm done with. I'm thrown in the scrapyard. Anyway, BYU going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati hasn't looked good lately. They lost to Utah, also beat down. They lost to Arizona, but a team that was ascending at one point. They've kind of both these teams are in tough spots, must-win games really for both of them. BYU just for the Big 12 implications, and Cincinnati just to try to, I guess, get back in the top 25 here. Totals 54.5. BYU really needs this one. They can't afford to lose it. Everything that I've seen historically tells me that BYU is going to lose it, but I don't know. Might be different. Maybe BYU could finally get it done here. 2.5 points. They got to go on the road to Cincinnati, all the way to Ohio. 8:00 though. We got a nice prime time Fox slate here for these two Big 12 teams.
Yeah, BYU is another tough team to handicap, I feel like, this year. Like, you see the flashes and you see, they could be at the top end, but then, that Texas Tech game is very hard to get out of the way. So I think going up against the elite competition, if you're talking about a playoff run or, being in the top 10, obviously I don't think they're in that discussion. But now you're playing a team more your speed, more your level in Cincinnati. And BYU's fared pretty good in these games, similarly to, like you said, a Utah. TCU was definitely, in that discussion until they absolutely laid an egg, like you said. So BYU, but then they're another tricky team where they play really well at home, but then definitely struggle on the road a little bit. Some of their close calls that they had were definitely on the road this year. They've been really nails at home, but when they travel outside Utah, they get a little hairy. So I think that's going to be the case here too. I do like Cincinnati in the game. It's a little scary to back them in this spot because of how bad they played the last couple games. But I still believe in Swansby. I think he's a good quarterback. He had 2 interceptions last game against Arizona. I think Arizona's playing some sneaky good football too. So I don't think that's a terrible loss by 6, but, it's still got to win that game at home. They were favored, I think, by 5 points. So that one was a little disappointing. But I think Cincinnati, I think they're just in a better spot this week. Don't love the coach. I think he's another coach that's completely overrated, Satterfield or something like that. Hasn't really gotten it done here, but I just think the spot, BYU traveling, now they have the expectation. Cincinnati was looking pretty primed in the Big 12, but then they lost those last 2 games after Utah and then this last one, Arizona. So they kind of took themselves out of the Big 12 discussion. Maybe they could play a little free in this one, just playing with some house money. BYU obviously needs this game. They need the next game. They need every game they can to get back to that Big 12 championship. It's there for them, and they could do it. I like their quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, the freshman. I think he's going to be really good in a couple of years, but he's already playing pretty well. That run game is legit. But Cincinnati's got a good run game themselves, too, in this one. So I see a lot of points in this one. I like the over 54.5 in this one as well. Probably like it more than the side in this one. I just think both offenses are a little bit underrated. I think both defenses aren't as good as maybe what the perception is out there. So this one kind of opened 52 when I grabbed it, now up to 54, still below that key of 55, which is very key for college football here. So I still like the over. I would take it early here, if anything under 55. But I don't know. I just see a back and forth game. I see a very close one. And BYU's been good in these close games, but I think the magic runs out here. I think Cincinnati's been dying for a win these last couple of weeks, and I think they finally get one here at home in front of the home crowd and spoil BYU's season here a little bit at the end.
Yeah, no, we definitely would spoil their season. Also, Cincinnati, I guess if they do knock off BYU, you'll have like 5 teams tied here with 2 losses in the Big 12 for second. So I don't know how that tiebreaker would work out. It'd definitely be, I'm sure, 2 or 3 different tiebreakers you'd have to go down to find out who, Texas Tech, assuming that they win, would play. But this is tough for me. I think I'm going to have to go head to head with you on this one, Paisley. First one, I think, really disagreeing that I have a strong pick. I just think BYU's been, like you said, Cincinnati's been knocking on the door or dying for a win the last couple of weeks. I think BYU's just felt like that all season, where I don't think anybody is really believed in them. And I don't think I entirely do, but I think that they could use that for some fuel, some motivation, and they're coming down to a final a week here on the road. I think a chance to kind of make a statement win. And I'm not saying they're going to win by a lot by any means, but really just win the game. Like if they could win this game. And I don't think it's against the fiercest competition. Like this isn't a Texas Tech team, Cincinnati. This isn't, a top 10 or top 15, team or anything like that. Like they're not playing any toward an SEC game. So they basically get the hype of a big game, the primetime spot, a chance to say, oh, we belong in the playoff, even though I don't want to, I'm not going to go that far and say that, but everybody, at least they could use that and say it and use it as fuel. Whether Cincinnati's ranked or not, I don't know, but Cincinnati, I don't think is going to be that tough of a competition for BYU. I think these are evenly matched teams, and I think BYU just has a lot to. I just think they're dying to get in this Big 12 championship. I think they're sick of seeing the narratives the last few weeks, and I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I've been selling them all season pretty much, but I think this is the one week where they're a slight favorite, just 1 or 2 points, and I think they're going to find a way to win the game on the road and get a tough win. I think it's going to be close. I think it might be ugly at times, but I'm gonna pick them to advance 10-1, make things interesting here in the Big 12 with this out large bids and all these other things. And I think they're going to do it. Not overly confident with it, but give me BYU. It's nice saying that. I don't think I've said that actually ever in my life. I don't know if I've bet on BYU once. So give me the Cougars.
Yeah, you weren't backing them with Zach Wilson, the great Jets quarterback back in the day.
True. They did have some legends run through that school, BYU. Always like the Mormon people out there too. Big shout out to them.
That TCU game just really scared you, Casey. Really, I mean, you and a lot of people. I was on them. Everybody I saw loved TCU. I think everyone was expecting BYU to fall last week, and now everybody, I thought this was the game more that was a little more dangerous for them going on the road here. And just really quickly, when they went on the road in Big 12 play, Colorado 3-point win. We know what Colorado is at this point. Arizona, that was a game they should have lost. Obviously, we were both of them in that game. And then Iowa State, terrible first half, but then they had a really good second half, ended up winning by 14, but that final score was a little misleading. And then Texas Tech, obviously we know what happened there 2 weeks ago. So let's see if they could go on the road here and get a big win. I think a lot of people don't want to see BYU in the playoff or in the Big 12 championship. they're definitely a bubble team, but I think their bubble gets burst here. So we'll go head-to-head on this one.
Probably why I'm picking them too, because I know I had them against, I picked Iowa State over BYU in that game, and then Iowa State. I think we were both on Iowa State. That was just a disaster. They were up by so many points, Iowa State, and then just blew it. I don't even know what happened in the second half. They just forgot to come out of the locker room.
Yep.
And then I also sold them against Texas Tech. Was against them in TCU. So give me BYU. We'll see what happens on this one. Saturday night prime time. Okay, moving on to our picks. We got a few more games we're just going to touch on quick, and then we'll get to our underdog parlay of the week. Rumor is it's a record odds here, so stay tuned for that. Paisley, what is one of your early picks here that you're going to be rolling with?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the newly acquired head coach, James Franklin, making the big rounds to Virginia Tech. I'll take his team this week against a fade against the Miami Hurricanes. Virginia Tech plus 17.5 now. Virginia Tech has not been playing great football recently, but we were kind of calling these spots all year. Definitely the Pitt game. I think that's going to be a double one. We'll both be on Pitt no matter what the number is. We'll take the money line next week. But I think this one's kind of similar. You know, they got to go on the road here. Everyone kind of forgot about Miami, but now they think they should be in the playoff, even though they haven't done anything all season. They're not even in people's like top 15, but then they're being like, oh, they should be in over Notre Dame and everything. But I know that, like, let's get to the end of the season. Like we said, let's see if they can win both these games here. Not calling for an outright upset, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. I was surprised this one's above 17. I thought this would be right around like 14, 13. So getting a little bit extra points of value. Virginia Tech still trying to play hard. They still have the players to do it, but I will definitely take all these points with Miami now going on the road. I think second time all season, they're leaving the state of Miami. So let's have the weather be nice and cold there in Virginia, hopefully in the 40s, low 40s. And those South Florida boys don't travel too well. So give me the Hokies here, plus 17.5.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, anytime we're betting against Miami, I'm all on board on that one. And yeah, it is ridiculous that they had said November 1st, they haven't left the state of Florida. So just absolutely outrageous. And then they lose the game anyway. So I don't know though. I don't know if I'd mind if Miami wins this game 63-0 though, just to set us up for that big showdown against Pittsburgh next week. Everybody's gonna be on Miami, so it might have a double win here. Could have a win-win in this situation, but don't hate that. I'm gonna roll over to the Big Ten team that has been on my loser of the week quite a bit, winner of the week. A lot of negative, a lot of down, not good press this year. I'm gonna go with the Wisconsin Badgers with 7.5 against Illinois. Illinois, they've had a solid season. They're 7-3, but every test they had, they lost. They really had a chance to prove themselves after the Washington game. They failed that one. I was all over Illinois. It was one of my worst losses of the season. Still apologize to everyone out there for that pick. They've looked better since then. They beat Rutgers. They beat Maryland, but to once again, nobody schools. And here we are. They got to go to Camp Randall Stadium in a primetime slot. Don't ask me why, but 7:30 on Big Ten Network. It'd be cold. Let's see the AccuWeather forecast. Well, actually not too bad. Upper 30s. It's not too cold. But I think Wisconsin senior night, last chance to send this team off. They've had a lot of negatives this season. They've showed some fight though recently. They got the big win against Washington, and I think they're going to keep this one close. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. And I think 7.5 is enough for me. I think it's going to be low scoring. So give me Wisconsin with 7.5 for some positive. I'd like to see them win this game too. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Yeah, I actually love that one too. It was actually open at 10 all the way down to 7.5, but that's a team that keeps fighting. They're don't have a lot of wins, but they are in these games. They're fighting for Luke Fickell. So I like that one too, Case. So I'm going to be playing that one, anything north of a touchdown. My next one, we're going to team that we both love here on this podcast, full supporters. We're going to go to the Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii, traveling to UNLV. We're going to play UNLV again for the applause. Appreciate that. And plus 2.5 here. I was surprised Hawaii's the underdog in this one. We talked about the UNLV Utah State on the recap pod. Utah State easily should have won that game if they didn't miss 4 kicks. So I think this spread would be a little bit different. Hawaii coming off a bye. They're usually not good traveling off the island, but now you have extra time to rest, travel in to Las Vegas. Don't be staying out too late the night before Hawaii and your staff there. But I think they get the outright win here. It was close pick them for the underdog parlay of the week. So don't even need the points here, but we'll take them in this one plus 2.5. Give me the Rainbow Warriors.
I like it. Anytime we're betting on Hawaii, how far are they back in the Mountain West right now? I don't think I've looked in a week or two. I think they're They were hanging in there, but they might
Good
be a game or two
question.
back now.
Yeah, they had that nice win against San Diego State 2 weeks ago, but I will look that up as we get closer to give your next pick here. But
I'm gonna roll.
they are two losses, and there's a bunch of two-loss teams, and San Diego State has one loss, so it might be another big tiebreaker situation if they win
Okay.
it.
Maybe we could get lucky here with the Rainbow Warriors. Need the win. I was actually gonna pick them, but I couldn't. I think I picked them 2 or 3 times already. So I'm like, might save off for the Hawaii Bowl. I'm gonna be dumping the house on that one for
I
them.
like it. I like it.
My second pick, I'm gonna stick here in the Big Ten, although this time I'm gonna go with a team laying the points. Michigan traveling to College Park, Maryland. Michigan really struggled last week against Northwestern. Nearly lost that game. And they're taking on a Maryland team that's just been a mess lately. They haven't won, I can't remember when, in like 6 weeks. They're on like a 5-game skid, might even be more than that. Lost to Illinois a week ago, got killed at Rutgers, beat down Indiana 55-10, went out west, lost to UCLA, lost to Nebraska. And yeah, Michigan, who I don't think is all that great, but they're a team that's fighting. They have I think they're way more talented than Maryland. And I think they're just going to bounce back from that loss, I think, or not the loss, but that really close to a loss, that abysmal performance against Northwestern. So I think we're just going to get a little bit of a bounce back. Not saying I like Michigan long term, but I think in this spot, I think they're going to go to Maryland, just try to make them put them on the spot. But we'll point out Michigan does play Ohio State, of course, next week. So, maybe that's a little bit of a factor. Maybe they'll come out flat again, but I don't think 14's enough for me to take Maryland. So I like Michigan where they're at.
Yeah, I'll be going head to head with you on this one, Case. I'm on the Terrapins. I like the Terrapins. They have been god awful, like you said, so it is very scary. But I'm just fading this Michigan team. I don't think they should be laying 14 to 11. I don't know if they could score 14 points with that offense and the way they're going, but should be a fun one there. I'll go a little friendly head to head there in the Big Ten matchup. But for my next pick, I'm going to go down to Florida. Lane Kiffin's potential next landing spot. He was visiting there in his bye week. We're going to take the Florida Gators plus the points. Surprised this one was a little bit higher against the Tennessee Volunteers. Two teams kind of not playing for anything now. Tennessee probably out of the playoff picture, coming off a bye, going to the Swamp. Florida actually looked pretty impressive in that Ole Miss game. I was surprised how much they fought. I think that Kentucky game, I don't know what just happened or what was going on there, but they really did show some fight against Ole Miss and could have won that game outright if they didn't have a couple turnovers or a couple plays that didn't go their way in that game. So I was really impressed with them. They could get them back home. They're still playing hard for this coach, except for that Kentucky game. So I think no matter what quarterback's out there, Lagway looked a little bit better last game. So maybe get a good effort here against a bad Tennessee defense that hasn't been good all year. And the Florida defense is actually showing up, playing pretty good. So that's going to be a fun matchup against the Tennessee offense that could definitely put up numbers. So, but I'll take the points here, and I wouldn't be shocked if Florida gets an outright win at home. They have been playing pretty good at home, not too good on the road. So give me the Gators at the Swamp there to get a little upset victory.
Yeah, I like that one. I saw one and I almost put it on the previews. I figured somebody would pick it here at the end, but Florida Tennessee should have been a huge game really at the beginning of the year, and then we see how all that pans out. But I was surprised a little bit when I saw only a 4-point spread in this one, but it just shows how deep the SEC has been. Florida's at home; they're playing a little bit better, so getting 4, I don't mind that. I don't mind a little bit maybe on the money line also. So yeah, agreement there. My third pick here, I'm going to go to the ACC, which is ridiculous. This is here in the ACC conference, but Cal and Stanford. I'm going to lay some points with the Cal Golden Bears. They're laying 3. Very tough game here. Going to be interesting. Both not too far from each other. West Coast teams. Stanford has not looked good. They were supposed to be a horrible team coming into the season. They kind of have been. But then they beat Florida State in a game nobody saw coming. I took them against Miami, which I don't even want to talk about right now. I'm not even going to think about that. Got blown out by Pittsburgh. Kept it close against North Carolina. Almost pulled off that win. And then Cal's also been a team that has shown some signs like they've been playing decent football at times. They had a tough game against UVA. They beat Louisville. They got the big signature win over Louisville that we talked about earlier. And I just think here they are at home. I think they have a laying 3 points. I like them in this one for senior night. I think it's going to be close, but I just give a little bit more to Cal. Give me the Golden Bears.
Yeah, this one, the game, I think they call it to the band on the field. So always a fun matchup. Hopefully see it maybe again here. But yeah, this one's a sneaky. I kind of like this matchup too. It's a good game. I can kind of see both sides. So I'm kind of interested to see where this number goes, but kind of like Stanford early on. But then a lot of people that I know are picking Cal, and that's why this line moved up from 2.5 to 3.5. So interested to see where that one goes. But I think that's a nice pick there from UK. So last one here to round us off. Going to go to the American in a big game in the American. ECU at UTSA playing in the dome setting. We're going to go over on the fast track, over 62. ECU sneakily playing some good football, has a chance to maybe crack into the American Championship. UTSA, I think, has 3 losses, so they're kind of out of it unless they get some crazy chaos. But they're still playing hard. Had a nice win against Charlotte last week where they put up 30+. So I think in this matchup, these both teams go super fast. ECU is crazy, crazy fast. If you watch them, remember watching them on a weekday game a couple weeks ago, like they are quicker than quick. They get up to the line very quickly. They run a ton of plays. They struggle in the red zone. That's where some of their scoring falls off. So if they can punch in some touchdowns here, I like all year what the UTSA offense has presented, especially at home. So I expect this one case, it's going to be a little alternate line. I could see it's going into the 70s, maybe even 80s. I'm expecting a ton of points in this one in the dome setting.
I like that a lot. Yeah, 70, 80. You can get that at much better odds, plus 100 or so, if you plus even more than that. And I like it. ECU, UTSA over 62.5. All right, that does it for our picks here on this Tuesday. And now, of course, what everybody's been waiting for, the Underdog Parlay of the Week. Paisley, rumors are that we have a pretty good one. Is that accurate?
It is, Case. We broke a record here. We are over the 10-1 mark. Really juicy. So if you like big odds in this one, a little bit of money to win a lot, this is the week for you. I'll start us off here with about a touchdown underdog. I think it's going to win outright. We're going to go back to Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. I got the UNC plus 210 against the Tobacco Road rivals, the Duke Blue Devils. No, this is not the basketball game. This is the football version. I think Duke's kind of broken after last week. We were on them. I don't know. I can't get this Duke team right, so maybe they'll just screw me here. But that defense is not good. The offense, I don't know what happened to it last game. UNC's defense quietly been playing really good, keeping teams under 21, except for that late blunder where they gave up a touchdown. Bill Belichick called a timeout on 4th down with the clock expiring. I was texting you about that one, so he might be getting looked into for some gambling investigations. But in this one, I think if you take the UNC plus 210 here, I think it's a good pick. I think the offense that's been struggling for UNC could feast a little bit on this Duke defense that has no life, not that great. And I think the UNC defense has been playing good and can slow down Mensa and that Duke attack. I'm expecting they always play a close game in this matchup. I'm expecting no different here. I was surprised it was plus over 200 here. So give me UNC late game heroics here at home to get the win for Chapel Bill and his girlfriend, Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a great way to go out too on the season for Bill Belichick. One more after this, but for how negative it's been ever since that TCU game week 1 to string together a couple wins. Not saying they're really on any sort of roll, but this would be a nice win for them. And I agree, Duke's a team that is on my list as well as with TCU of teams that I will no longer be touching this year. I've been very frustrated at them the last couple of weeks, so I like that UNC plus 210. Well, Paisley, I even have one a little more than that at plus 295. We need to go all the way down to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to pick the Kentucky Wildcats to go in to Vanderbilt and knock off the Commodores, get a big upset win. I think they're getting 9 or 10 points in this one. The line's been fluctuating up and down. Kentucky they're looking okay. They beat Auburn, they beat Florida, they beat down Florida. What am I saying? They beat that FCS team a week ago. Vandy, they're good. They're 8-2, but they lose to Texas. Took a big second half comeback in that game. Last time we saw them, they went to overtime with Auburn. Like, we haven't seen this Vanderbilt team in a little while. They were off last week. And I just think Kentucky's going to go in and surprise people. I think this is a game that not a lot of people are talking about nationally, one that might be slipping under the radar. And I don't think we'll be too stunned here if we have a Kentucky Wildcats upset. So huge odds, plus 295 Kentucky, plus 210 UNC. We've been pretty good on this this year, better than last. We're plus units for the parlay, and also individually even more, I think close to double digits units. So Paisley, what does that take us to? North Carolina and Kentucky.
Yeah, if you parlay them together, plus 1124, so a little over 11-1 here. I'm really liking this one. I did play already Kentucky plus the points against Vanderbilt. Their offense is cooking, which they never had an offense all season, so I think they continue here. Kind of like them as well to pull off the upset against Vanderbilt.
I like it. So plus 1124, huge, big opportunity to make a lot of money here coming in to the final couple weeks. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your college football Saturday. And as always, we'll be back Sunday night breaking down everything that happened going into the final week of the regular season.